Kiera, welcome to the podcast. It is such a delight to have you here. I've been really excited to interview you. I heard you on another podcast, and I am deep diving myself into the world of quantum health and quantum biology. And you're one of the first educators I'm bringing on here. And I heard you, a lot of my followers also follow Danielle Hamilton and listen to her podcast. And that's where I heard you. And I thought, holy man, this gal, her brain is just packed with so much good information. And I mean, I'm dating myself. I've been in the field for a long time. I'm like, this is a young girl who is really just making such a splash and difference in the world. So thanks for coming on. And it's so nice to have you here, Kiera.
Oh, thank you very much. I'm very humbled by your warm introduction. I'm glad someone thinks that I'm doing good things. Yeah, thank you so much for having me on. I'm super excited for you and to be learning about these things. You know, it's like the saying, if we ever stop learning, we're dead, right?
Yes, that's how I feel. And I feel like if I drive my family nuts because they're like, oh, now what is mom into? Like, seriously, just stop listening to people. But I can't help it. I just love to learn new things. And all of this quantum biology and quantum health and circadian rhythm and all of the lighting, the water, it just gets me so excited again, where I was kind of like, okay, is this the dead end again? Like, is this all of the things? There's got to be something missing. But I would love for you to just give a brief introduction of who you are. Obviously, my listeners are mostly in the United States, not everyone. They're probably thinking your cute Australian accent is just really fun to listen to. But tell us a little bit about your backstory and how you got so interested in quantum health. And then we'll explain a little bit what that is, because a lot of people are probably like, quantum what? I don't even know what they're talking about. But give us a little bit of your backstory.
Yeah, of course. I think that quantum can be such a broad term as well. Like in quantum, I feel like there's 8 different disciplinaries. So I'm just from one of those, maybe integrate a few of those. But just with time in mind, I'll keep it very short. I'm glad that my accent's nice. I've been told the opposite a few times, so that's nice. So I'm from Southeast Queensland in Australia. I'm 26 years old. My name is Kiera Lea. And for lack of a better term, I've coined myself a quantum and circadian health coach and educator. So I coach clients one-on-one for the last 2 years. I'm now in more of the education space, so working to educate other practitioners on what I do so that we can really come together and spread this message across the world, because it just is so, so important. And so how did I get here? Well, I was very healthy growing up. I was living everything that I teach people how to do today as a quantum and circadian clinician. So always had my feet on the ground, always out in the sun, always drinking fresh water from a stream and eating local and seasonal and all of the things. And then I did a Bachelor of Psychological Science after school. And then I went on to do my registered nursing degree. Now, whilst I was in registered nursing, I moved to a city. So from rural Queensland into a city, and I got really, really sick. And I know why I got so sick now, but I didn't then. And it was very confusing. And all my friends kind of knew me as the health girl. And if they had any questions, they would come and see me because I knew everything about health, or I thought I did. And so I was asking my professors at university, I said, oh my gosh, I have vertigo. I'm passing out all the time. Like, actually just waking up and fainting wouldn't be uncommon for me. I had severe vertigo. My chronic fatigue was just next level. And growing up, I kind of had a picture memory. So I could read a book and I could literally recall the page in my mind's eye and read it again. And I lost that ability. And so my grades started to slip and I just wasn't in a good place. And so I asked my professors, who I respected very much in the field of psychology and nursing and biochemistry, and they just said, go vegan. And so I went, yes, they did. And so being the respectable professors that they were, I listened to them and my health got worse. And so just by pure chance, I came across a doctor online and he said to me, Kiera, your body is perfectly capable of doing everything that God designed it to do, except you're living in an environment that is not supportive of its function. And I thought, what are you talking about? And it took me a little while to really grasp and understand what he was talking about. But I feel like when you're so sick and you've tried and exhausted every single modality, you've spent thousands of dollars on biochemistry labs, on thyroid panels, you're kind of willing to give anything a go. And so this gentleman had just told me to watch the sunrise. And so I started watching the sunrise and I started getting better. And quite quickly too. And so I said, there must be something to this. And so around this time, I left nursing and I started to study quantum health, decentralized. And so there was no courses out there then that you could take to study these things. I know there is a few now, which is great. But so what is studying decentralized look like? It looks like studying directly from doctors, hiring mentors, reading blog posts after blog post after blog post, spending a lot of time buying your own textbooks and really researching. And I came to the conclusion that our healthcare system is drastically broken, and that the pharmaceutical model isn't really designed to, or maybe it was at the very start, but now it's not healing people. It's actually just causing a longer list of symptoms, which leads to, you know, more pharmaceuticals, which cause more symptoms. And I'm sure we could talk about that all day, but that's not what we'll talk about on this podcast. And so I got better. I healed myself. I spent 3 years studying as a decentralized clinician after 5 years of university. And I thought, wow, this message after working with clients one-on-one is so powerful. It's really something that's missing from alternative medicine, holistic care, and also Western allopathic medicine. And so I started jumping online and educating others on what I was doing. And so what is quantum and circadian healthcare? It's really just teaching people how to be normal men and women and live like live like we were designed to live. So unlike Western medicine, which focuses on the body and then pulls the body apart and focuses on all the different systems, we really believe in the quantum world that our body is directly related to our environment. And so if you believe in God or you believe in evolution, then you believe that we were designed perfectly to fit our environment and the world around us was designed to support our function in God's eye. And if you believe in evolution, then you believe that as the world was created, so were we. And so we are synergistically tied to our environment and in no way separate from the sun that's around me, the grass that's outside my window. And perhaps chronic disease really stems from the artificial lighting. It really stems from our walk, well, not really a walk, but our run from nature and our natural environment. And so we look at the body, not on a biochemistry level. We're told that that's kind of, you know, that's the basis and the foundation of the body, but there's actually a level lower than that. And that's actually called the quantum level. And so we're looking at what actually make up molecules in the body, which are protons, neutrons, and electrons. So we're looking at these subatomic particles and the flow of energy from our environment, external and internal and vice versa to maintain health. And so we're really looking at our electrical body rather than biochemistry.
Which makes sense because I was taught as a dietitian biochemistry, like these are your food substrates, your proteins, your carbohydrates, your fats. This is what they do. This is the hormones that they make. But then you got to think, well, what actually makes the body go and run? But your story also just really resonates with me because my daughter is going to be 21. So you're just a few years older than she is. And when she went to college or university her freshman year, same thing happened, like drastic decline in her health, stopped having her period, developed PCOS, terrible acne, wasn't sleeping well. She never got to the mental stage that you did and, you know, not being able to like stay in school. But oh my, I was doing so many, and then, you know, terrible food and drinking the city water where we have like filtered well water here. And we live more in a rural area. And I was just beside myself and I'm not there to help, you know, like with her every day. But yeah, and then she's battled for 2 years before you know, we basically have turned her health around almost. Now she's really getting into the circadian stuff and adding that to all of the other things. But I'm just like, she feels like it was her missing piece that we weren't really paying attention to. And, you know, me personally too, I feel like it's been a missing piece and it's just so exciting to learn about this because, you know, for educators like me, who you think you have all of the information and there's just so many people, I applied everything that you told me and I'm still not getting well. And I've had, you know, my own issues with cortisol and blood sugars lately following everything to a T that I, you know, that I've taught. So it's just, it's nice to hear that, we were missing something and there's a whole new way to look at things and at the quantum level. So is there an actual degree that there's not like a degree you can get, right? Like you said, you are kind of, I know that there's, what is it called? The Quantum Collective or something along those lines that I'll be taking in the fall. And there's other educators to learn from, but it's such a new thing. And it's not new. I mean, it's it's like how we evolved. So it's not, but it's just a new way of thinking. But is there like quantum biology that you study, or how does that work?
No, there's not really. I mean, I'm going back to study physics so that I can
Okay.
understand quantum physics better. But no, there's the Quantum Biology Collective. I haven't announced this anyway yet, but a gentleman called Dr. Jalal Khan and we're actually working on a course right now when our first intake will be, I think, August the 1st,
Okay.
which is really exciting. And so we're really breaking down the roadmap of this stuff and creating a really good educational platform for other practitioners, which is super exciting because it is missing the full, the full 360 degree on health is missing. And even in quantum, I think there's so many things missing. I mean, I love Jack Cruz and Carrie Bennett and all these people, and Carrie's great. She talks a lot about the stuff that I love to talk about, but there is the emotional body as well. There is, we know that water holds memory now. We used to think that this was held in our brain. We now know that water holds memory in the hydrogen bonds of it. And so when we're looking at trauma and we're looking at trauma trapped in the body, this is where trauma can really show up in tight fascia. In these are actually repressed memories that can be affecting your health. They are actually affecting the quantum coherence of the body and the meridians that flow through that. So quite often I can see patients that have been through traumatic events, they might have a symptom like back pain or something, which is secondary to what they originally, came to me for, which might be chronic fatigue or insomnia. And then you start to ask, you have a really good intake process and you ask them, okay, so what's your other symptoms? And quite often it can be tied to blockages in the body. And these can be relieved quite simply. And then having, knowledge on the meridians from my time as a yoga teacher and now understanding how fascia works in terms of exclusion zone water and proton flow through the body, we can have the maps of these meridians that were crafted so long ago in Chinese medicine. And now we can have a map of these proton tunnels in our body, and they're the exact same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so it really, science is a religion now, and we don't think that things exist until science says, okay, this exists now. But it's really cool because we're getting to that point where science is really starting to overlap with all of these theories, which people have had for a very, very long time. And I feel like things like acupuncture, they used to be beautiful and they really used to be quite healing. But now, because we're doing them under blue light and metal
Yeah.
is conductive, they're just not getting the same effects. And so I know an acupuncturist from Florida actually who practices under natural lighting with circadian principles. And so we really need to be intertwining these, living like a human principles. And I hate the word human, but living like men and women principles into every single other modality, because it's not that these modalities don't work. Everyone can have a different lens. And it's up to the mindset of the individual to find what they think will work for them in the first place, because our thoughts also impact our reality. But we need to intertwine these with these other modalities, and it just amplifies their impact and makes them so much more effective.
Yeah, it's fascinating. And I think a lot of it is just having an open mind. And I know people like me are taught like this is what happens when you eat this or when you do, but it's just not that easy. It's it's so personalized, and like at least in America, we just want to put everyone with one disease state in a box and treat them with a pharmaceutical that they're labeled with, and off you go. And there's no healing that comes with that sort of
And I
treatment.
also understand that healing is it's a proof of work mechanism. And so for me, I had this knowledge and I did all this study and I was like, wow, I can heal so many people. And I'm sure you've had this too in your practice. And then you give people the answer, but they don't want to implement it into their life because it is
Right.
proof of work mechanism. I say to my clients, I wish I could give you a magic pill. I really wish that I could, but I can't. And so we have to do X, Y, Z, and you have to make these changes. And it doesn't matter how slow you go, I'm here to support you. But it's still so hard for people to implement into their lives. And so true health is proof of work. And so doctors, you know, and if you have that mindset of really wanting to heal, then you do go and do your own proof of work. You come across people like yourself and like me, and you know, you can educate yourself quite easily. I did.
Yeah. 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 I retaught myself everything that I teach now, pretty much.
Exactly. And so doctors, I feel like, are there for people now. There's enough information out there that if you don't want the proof of work, well, then you can take Plan Z, which is traditional Western medicine, but you have to be okay to live with the outcome of that, if that
Sure.
makes sense. Because at the end of the day, we all have free will. But
Right.
yeah, it's gone a little bit off topic now, but anyway.
No, no, but it's important. It's important to talk about. But I would like to start with the light component because I mean all of these things can make huge changes for people, but we live in a culture where we've been told to cover up, slather up before you even go outside, and the sun's going to cause skin cancer, and don't get any more exposure. I mean, I even like open my weather app and it will say UV6, put on sunblock. And I'm like, oh, it drives me nuts. And as I'm not like, we're just coming into late spring here, but I'm out in the sun as much as I possibly can be. I lifeguarded for all through high school and college. And I was always that mom who, I'd send my kids over to a friend's house and the mom would be like, do you need sunscreen on your kids? I'm like, nope, they're good. Like they're good. And without even knowing like about the solar callus and building that, they never burn. They were in the sun so much and outside so much. I was just
Mhm.
like that mom. And I'm like, nope, please don't put sunscreen on them. They're good. they're good. But
Because
we
the
live in this
children were just
culture.
living like they were designed to live, right? So they didn't, you don't
Right.
have to know what a solar callus is if you are just
Right, right.
mind with the seasons.
Exactly. That sounds so technical. Like, oh, I have to go out at this time for 5 minutes and this time for 10. It's like, no, just go outside, go outside barefoot. If you're starting to get pink, then go in the shade. Like it can be that simple. But
Mhm.
let's talk about how healing the sun can be, because of course there's a lot of people who think, yeah, I can't go in, I have a history of skin cancer in my family or whatever it is. But let's talk a little bit about the different types of sunlight throughout the day and how they're beneficial. I mean, you've talked about how watching the sunrise, just that in and of itself made a difference within a few days for you. And I
Mhm.
think so some people are just so far disconnected. It is. It's like within a couple of days of watching the sunrise and being outside doing some earthing, like you can feel the difference within a couple of days. But talk about like the benefits of watching the sunrise. And I know a lot of people are like, oh, I work or I can't do that. And like some applicable ways to watch the sunrise and then the different spectrums of the sun throughout the day.
Yeah, of course. Great question. When we were off camera, you said that your audience is quite new to this. So I might just start with
Yeah.
like an overarching theme so that people can kind of understand without having to understand the technicalities.
Yes.
So just because I can look at my phone and I know it's 7:25 and my consciousness knows now it's 7:25, Kiera, you had this meeting at 7:30. My body doesn't get that message, but my body also needs to run on time because it has all these different processes that it needs to do during the day. It needs to wake up. My thyroid hormones need to rev up. My thyroid hormones need to go down. My cortisol needs to go down. Melatonin needs to come up at nighttime. And so my body has this distinct pattern of the way it should do things to support me. Because if my body didn't know the time, my melatonin might be coming up during the day. And then I'm sleeping during the day, and that's not beneficial for anybody, right? Because I have to go to work. And so, how does my body tell time? Well, my body tells time through the blue light that's in its environment. And so, all day long, we just see illumination coming from the sun. We don't see all these different colors and frequencies, but light really is made up of all these different frequencies and all these different blends. So let's just call them colors, right? And we can't even see all those colors like infrared and UV. We don't see those colors. Also, because we're not supposed to change the reality of what those colors do on our planet, but that's another topic in another podcast. So we don't see them, but they're changing all day long. And as they change, they send different signals to my body on what it should do. And so you can think of the changing frequencies as the time, the handles on the clock going round and round. And so that's communicating to my body and keeping my body working in line with this environment. And so when we wake up, we're getting ready and we need energy for the day. And so that infrared light, that red light that's coming from the sun, which it is the same all day long, but in the morning it's more in isolation. That signals to my mitochondria to make metabolic water. And so now I'm starting to make a ton of water. And why am I making water when I first wake up in the morning? Well, it's because that same infrared light is going to structure that water into a body battery. And so that's the work of Dr. Gerald Pollack, for anyone who's interested. His lab really worked out that water can actually be charge separated when it's exposed to light, specifically infrared light. And so all of the electrons are pushed up towards the hydrophilic surface and all the proteins push out. And so we get this charge separation, and that really is a body battery. And that actually gives energy for our body. And so why am I getting infrared in the morning? It's because my body is getting ready to build that battery, to expand it, and then to charge it as well. And so that's a perfect example of how we're intertwined with our light environment. And to go one step further, Gerald Pollack did some experiments. And so when he exposed water, also in a chick embryo as well. So we know this is happening on a molecular level as well. When he shone the UV light on the exclusion zone after it had been divvied with the infrared, it actually increased its negative charge. And so UV light is something that comes later in the day. And so it's not just about exposing yourself to these lights, it's about exposing yourself to the light in the right order as nature intended, because they all do specific things. And some of these only happen once the coherence of the water has changed through contact with the previous light frequency. And so it needs to go through these steps in order to reach its full capacity for our body. And so that's just one example of energy in the body. And this infrared light is also extremely healing. It primes our skin to handle the UV light, the UVA that's going to come later. And then the UVA preps our body for the UVB, which comes even later. And so the general rule of thumb is you want to expose yourself as much as possible to light, but also the key frequencies of light, which is sunrise, UVA rise, UVB rise, the sets, and then sunset as well. And so I think a common one that you wanted to talk about was a little bit about artificial blue light at nighttime and why that possibly is so bad. Did you want to touch on that?
Yes, and I love how you've already brought all of the different lights in there. And I just wanted to tell the listeners that there is an app, and I'm sure you use it and you use it with your followers too, called Circadian, that has all of these different light frequencies in it. And you just plug in where you live, your location, and it will tell you, I have it going off all day, like Shannon, sunrise is at 5:50. And, it's not actually saying that, but then you can see when the UVA rise, the UVB rises. But I found it fascinating that each one of these different light frequencies and the colors, as we'll call them, UVA, the UVB, like it's prepping you for what's coming next. And I don't know if it's you I've listened to, or we had talked about Carrie Bennett a little bit. Like I'm listening to a lot of her information and in courses, but a lot of the reason why people are getting such bad burns when they travel, it's like they're out of their lighting environment that they're used to, but then they're just going out at noon at UVB, when the UVB is so intense and they haven't been out for the sunrise or in the morning. So their skin isn't really prepped for that. And so, yeah, it's like we have this natural, I don't even want to call it defense, but the sequence.
Capacity to intertwine with our environment.
Yeah, and not get a harsh sunburn if you're doing what you said. And when you're out at different times during different lighting in different environments, that's what's natural for the body, and you don't see, you're in the environment that was intended. And
Exactly. With the sunburn as well, how many people are wearing sunglasses? And then
right.
they're outside, and it's like, well, of course you're burning, because we actually, to create melanin, which is the pigment in our body that makes us tan, we have it internally and externally. And what does that tan do? It absorbs, reflects, and refracts light. It also takes in light's energy also do things with water to give us energy inside of our body. But again, another story. So that's actually protecting us. So when the sun's really high and the UV is really high in our environment, we should have a tan. This is why dark people are dark, because they're from places where there's a lot of sun, or their family was, right, before they moved. And that's why white people are so white, because they need more light inside their body. So if they were tan, they would be blocking and, you know, refracting so much light, and they need to harness that. So they don't have any tan in their body because they don't need it. And so to actually make that melanin, we need to have the same light on our skin that we do in our eyes. And when you don't, you're not able to actually maximize that melanin production. Yes, you can a little bit, even if you're still blocking your eyes. But you need the UV light in your eyes for our body to go, okay, so there's UV light around. I'm going to clip POMC and make ASMH, and I'm going to, you know, produce tan in Kiera's body because she needs it right now. Another thing is that, you know, we don't go outside. And so if I'm not from winter through fall right now, and then back through summer, exposing myself to light regularly so that my body can say, okay, you know, a little bit UV1, so a little bit of tan, UV2, more tan for Kiera. You know, one day my wife's going to say, you know, it's so hot, let's take the kids to the beach in the middle of summer. And my body doesn't know that it's summer and doesn't know that the UV is so high, because I'm always wearing clothes, I'm always indoors, I have the air conditioning on, and I'm basically mimicking winter. And so my body says, what on earth? I had no idea the UV was this high. I haven't prepped your body for this at all. I thought it was winter. And so it's no wonder why we burn. And then we're also consuming inflammatory seed oils, which the main problem with those is deuterium, but they do cause a reaction in the body as well, which allows us to burn faster. So,
well, I'm glad you brought that up, because I've seen the literature on that, but I never knew what the actual connection was and why you're more prone to get a sunburn when you are exposed. I mean, the processed foods and the seed oils, and my listeners are very well aware of seed oils and how inflammatory those were. But I wasn't wanting to share a lot of that information like on my social platforms and my following, because I didn't know what the connection the connection was. I'm like, yeah, I've been seeing that you're more likely to burn when you eat a lot of ingest a lot of seed oils, but I didn't know it was the deuterium, which we have not discussed that either. But that's definitely a new concept for people listening. They're probably like, oh gosh, no. So so yeah, we could talk a long time about all of these, and maybe we'll come back to that if we do have time. But I feel like one of the biggest tragedies of my life was wearing sunglasses all the time. And I'd always say, like, I don't remember it too much, like in high school and like early, but then like the years, the summers I was lifeguarding, I was on a beach. So I was on the water, you know, the water reflection. Then I think that's where I kind of got used to wearing them all the time. But I haven't worn them now in at least a month. And I would always say, oh, but my eyes are so sensitive. I have to wear them. Like I would wear them even when it was cloudy. And now, you know, my eyes are just, it's different now. They're not like, oh, and I think it tied, you know, I know that can be a reflection of adrenal issues and cortisol issues too. And
and
now
also
it all
blue
makes
light
sense.
toxicity. Yeah,
What was that?
it's a big symptom of blue light toxicity as well. So
Mm,
being
yes.
exposed to a ton of blue light in your eyes, yeah.
Yes, yes. And so, yeah, it didn't make like nothing, none of it made sense until just recently. And now it's just all coming together, and I'm
So
just,
I'm very excited for you.
I know, I'm like, oh, all those years. And, you know, and it's like, you like certain styles of sunglasses. I'm like, oh, these look good. But yeah, I really
I
have,
look good when I have sunglasses on. Sometimes I just put them on my head so that they can hold my
yeah,
hair back. It's nice.
exactly. And
It's so
sometimes
nice
I
to
will wear
see.
them if there's like a lot of snow reflecting, like if I'm,
Mhm.
or if I'm on the, like we live on the river
Yeah, please be safe when you're driving. Wear your sunglasses if you need to.
yes, yes. But for the most part, when I go out walking and I go outside, I don't wear them anymore.
That's good.
But yeah, but I'm glad you talked. So just to reiterate, the blocking so the light that's coming in through your eyes and through the skin should match, correct? And that's
Mhm.
why blocking the
Mhm.
light coming into your eyes with the sunglasses can give your body confusing signals. Is that
Exactly,
we're getting at?
exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. And also the light that you're eating as well needs to match the
Yes.
eye light that's
Yeah.
coming through your eyes and your skin too, because that can be inflammatory. And yeah, because light will shape what happens to your skin. to suit the season, but it also changes your metabolism and the way that your mitochondria are shaped to, and kind of preps your mitochondria to fix its shape to get ready to consume the food that's in your environment. So whether that be a really cold environment, and you're getting a lot of really cold, your body will be ready and adapted to consume fats and proteins, either through ketosis or through the food that you're eating. And then in summer, the opposite happens. So it really gets ready to consume carbohydrates. And that's, a quantized effect that light has on our mitochondria. And so, it's things like, and this is what your practice has been missing, and what we were talking about off camera, you were saying you're so excited for, is the fact that light really shapes our metabolism. And so when you understand this, you're like, okay, so, the whole vegan, carnivore movement is kind of thrown out the window because it's all about local and seasonal. Well, firstly, it's about regaining leptin sensitivity, but then after that, it's about just eating local and seasonal. But then perhaps, if you're in, because we now know that blue light, so back to the artificial blue light, which is good because it gets us back on track here.
Yeah.
But the artificial blue light, it really is doing the same thing to our body that carbohydrates do.
Okay.
And so artificial blue light, it upregulates cortisol and insulin levels, blood glucose levels, because of its the quantized effect it has on ACTH, where it clips it to become cortisol. And so this happens in a very in-depth process, which I won't state here.
Yeah.
I think I wrote about it on Twitter maybe a couple of weeks ago. So if you're a science nerd like me and you want to geek out, maybe jump on Twitter and have a read of those posts. But yeah, so blue light has the ability to change the way that our body functions on a hormonal level. And at the end of the day, what is it doing? That's increasing your stress response.
Yeah.
So if you're working a stressful job inside an office all day that has a ton of LED blue lights, you're just asking for problems that are related to high cortisol. And what are the problems that are related to high cortisol? Cardiovascular events, and I have different theories on this, but it can all be indirectly tied to blue light. Cardiovascular, neurological, what else? Depression, anxiety, infertility. All of these things perhaps are more tied to our light environment than other things than we thought originally. And so, what are these symptoms and these diseases? Well, they're the chronic illness pandemic. In the hospitals, we no longer see, my background's in nursing, we no longer see acute. It's not about Farmer Joe from across the road crashed his tractor and now he needs to get himself up and this and that. It's like, oh, this person's having a heart attack. This person has an aneurysm. This person had a stroke. This person is blah, blah, blah. And it's all chronic illness that's just come out of nowhere. That's apparently genetic, but none of our ancestry had these things. There was actually no recorded cases of breast cancer in the Western medical literature in 1900, 0. And now 1 in 3 women my age are going to be expected to receive a diagnosis by the time they're 50. And, maybe this has less to do with genetics and more to do with epigenetics. And maybe it's about our environment. The first time that we actually lit up a complete town, I think, was France in 1942. I believe that's when they turned their streetlights on. I could be wrong. Maybe it's 1927, but something around that. And so for me, this is when the chronic illness pandemic started. And so artificial blue light at night, we now know that it upregulates cortisol. It does what carbohydrates do to our body. And so if you're a metabolic coach or, you're trying to monitor your blood glucose levels, you can have a completely different response to the food that you're consuming if you consume it outside under red light or you consume it inside under blue light. And so in terms of keeping insulin low to increase sleep quality, to improve, human growth hormone release, to improve leptin sensitivity, you can cut carbs all you want. And I know that's super hard to do. So, there's so many women that are doing that. And then they're being gaslit by the medical professionals saying, oh, well, you must be eating cake, or you must be doing this, or you mustn't be following my 2,000 calorie a day diet because you're not losing weight. And turns out that they're actually just sitting under blue light all day long. And so they're having the exact same effect. And so this is why this message needs to get out there, because women, we've been told for our whole lives, I feel like it starts when we're in high school. Oh, your hair's not the right color, but here's a product that can fix you. Oh, your boobs aren't the right size, but here's a procedure that can fix you. Your skin's not the right color, but here's some fake tan that can fix you. And then those products cause more symptoms. And so then we end up just getting into the flow of taking a pill for every ill because our body's broken and it's only a product that can fix us. Your hormones are broken. Here's a product that can fix you. But what if it was never us? And what if it was just our environment the whole time? And our environment wasn't giving our body the right signals to function optimally. And in my practice, this is exactly what I see. I see people coming off their thyroid hormones. I see, women not only transforming their health, but really just having a new love for life because they just regain their confidence and they understand, oh, I love my body. Thank you so much. Because when you understand this stuff, it truly is so remarkable how much our body does for us. All of these toxins, all of the fake environments, and our body still shows up for us every single day and does the best that it can. And now it's our time to say, okay, thank you, body. I know what's happening now. I'm going to give you, it's all right, you can calm down. You can stop, running amok, take a break. I'm going to give you a really nice environment that's supportive of your function. And I think, that's the key takeaway. And it really is so beautiful. It's a global return to nature.
Yeah, it's such a fascinating thing. And when you look at it, it's only been 100 years since most of these changes have been occurring. And I say the same thing. I'm like, I can't believe we haven't died out as a species, honestly, because our human selves are handling so much. But let's go back to the blue light just a little bit, because we just want to make sure that people are aware, like the blue light is what's coming through, like on your screens, your TV, your phones, your tablets, your computers. And I look at my computer a lot during the day. I do have, blue light blocking glasses, the yellow tones. If right now I'm facing a window, but if I'm not in that environment, I'm wearing those. But we don't want, I think some people get confused, like they want to mitigate all blue light all the time. And you already mentioned there's blue light in the sky a lot, coming from the sun a lot of the day. It's in a spectrum. It's not an isolated blue light like it is from a screen. And then the sun sets and the blue light is gone. And then that's when we can start to produce the melatonin and the cortisol falls. And then we sleep and rest and digest. But it's our modern day environment that is just creating so many issues because we're staring at our phones until late at night. We're watching TV, we're watching movies. And so the goal isn't to never have any blue light in your eyes. It's just we want to have the right spectrums, and nothing. Anytime you go outside, you don't ever have to worry like, oh, I need to have these glasses on or I need to cover, like that is always natural. It's the indoor lighting environment, the unnatural environment that we're talking about that usually needs some sort of mitigation for some people. So I'm sure people are thinking, well, what can I even do about this? And what I found is, it's really pretty simple. Like once you understand it, like, yeah, we have a lot of blue light during the day. So like you said, it wakes you up, it tells your brain it's daytime. And then once the sunset, we do not have any of that light anymore, and we need to block it if it is in our lighting environment. So let's just go through the really basic things people can do to mitigate that blue light, including like taking light breaks outside in our natural environment whenever possible, and then just what you can do to block the blue light after the sun goes down.
Yeah, of course. I love the fact you brought up the cortisol melatonin issue because I feel like I spoke about that so much and I feel like everyone knows about that one, but they don't.
It's coming,
But
like,
yeah,
I feel like more and more people are talking about it, but they're maybe not even always understanding it, or they're thinking, I have high cortisol, I need to bring my cortisol levels down all the time, and just not that there's a pattern that you want to it.
exactly. And yeah, exactly. We have a pandemic of melatonin use in children because they can't sleep and they're staring at these screens, which literally is telling their body that it's midday. That blue light is mimicking midday sun and upregulating our cortisol, down regulating melatonin. So of course we have to put them on melatonin because their body is not getting the right signal to produce it. And then on top of all of this, that melatonin supplement in children is something I'm so passionate about because I work with them too much. They're too sick. They have a whole life ahead of them. We talk about setting our children up for success financially, but if they don't have their health, what do they really have?
Right.
They could have all the money in the world, but if they're not healthy, you know, life's not going to be great for them. And so whilst melatonin supplements can be convenient, and I know that moms are so receptive, as soon as they hear the message, they're like, okay, all right, I need to do the things that I need to do to help my children, because that's our inbuilt nature, right? As parents, well, I'm not a parent yet, but as mothers, as women, I feel. And then that melatonin goes on to cause another pandemic, which is the pandemic of prescription glasses in children,
Yeah.
because it damages their eye health. And, I think it's 80% of all children under the age of 10 in China have prescription glasses.
Wow.
So, yeah, big prescription glass companies are probably very happy with those figures and revenue, but health professionals aren't. And I'm not okay with that. But so what can we do? What
And
can
the
we do?
glasses are blocking more of the natural light, so it just perpetuates the issue. Yeah.
Exactly. So what can we do to fix this situation? Well, one, we need to block the blue light. So you can, block the blue light with a filter. So I have Iris on my computer, and so that changes all day long depending on what's happening outside. We can open up a window, turn off the air conditioning and open up a window, let all that natural light in, right? Because it's not just about wearing blue light blockers all the time and blocking some of that blue light coming through. It's about actually getting access to normal sunlight all day long so that your body can keep getting those signals. And so blue light blockers, they're a great tool, and everyone starts there. But eventually you want to move on to bigger things. You want to work outside when you can. Go work on your back patio if you don't have a meeting. The red blue light blockers, they're for nighttime after sunset, because we want to be blocking 100% of that blue light. It's really funny. I went to a biohacking conference in El Salvador, and everyone was gifted a pair of red blue light blocking glasses. And it's so funny because you could tell who the true biohackers were, or the true, quantum health purists were, because the next day at breakfast, almost everyone was wearing these blue light blocking glasses that were red. And of course, you need to wear them at nighttime.
Yeah. It's like sun's up.
And I was like, I was like, oh gosh, I have some serious work to do on this planet. If these are the people that are the quantum health enthusiasts, so gosh. So I just wanted to note that definitely the red glasses are for nighttime, because if we have red ones on at daytime, we're going to actually upregulate our melatonin, because our body's going, oh, okay, no blue light, it's nighttime, time to upregulate or secrete that melatonin, which is actually made in the morning. So we also need to get morning sunlight, because that's actually what's going to set off our aromatic amino acids to make serotonin and then melatonin oculally. So it's great to block the blue light, but if you don't have the melatonin made from the bright signals, then you need both sides of the coin. And then, because we've spent our whole lives around so much blue light, we need to add back in the red light. And so you really need to be getting as much red light as possible, because that actually is controlling cell repair processes in our body that happen when we have enough melatonin at nighttime. And so we need to do things like watch the sunrise. I always tell people, when they're healthy enough, when their mental health's good enough, get up at first light, because first light to sunrise is just basking in infrared light. And spending as much time as possible outside. And if you live in a city, or you work inside a lot, or you work in an office, perhaps getting something like a red light panel to put inside with you is just adding in that red when you can't avoid the blue. So at least you're going to be more cellularly hydrated. Your neurocognitive function is still going to be better, and you're going to be able to offset and mitigate a little bit of that damage. They're just such simple things that you can do. And after a couple of weeks, you're going to feel so much better. It's just remarkable. People think that, they start wearing these glasses and like, oh, wow, I slept so good.
Yeah.
The first time I wore them, I was sitting at my mum's house having dinner, and they thought I was hilarious. So funny. And it was 7 o'clock, and I was like, oh gosh, I'm actually so tired, because my body had just been craving that for so long. My mum said, I don't think those glasses are good, Kiera, if they're just going to make you go to bed all the time.
Yeah, but it's
I
been dark for like 3 hours already.
Literally. And so I slept so well. And, my friends and I have this joke. It's called, if you're out somewhere, the other day I went to my friend's mum's for dinner, and we had dinner with her, and I forgot my blue light glasses because I didn't think that I would be out so late. And so we ended up staying there till 8 o'clock talking. And the next day I text my friend, I said, oh my gosh, I'm blue light drunk. And you literally feel,
I don't feel good. There's
we
so much
call it,
to it. They really do work.
Yeah, they do work, you know.
Because I
Yeah, it,
noticed, I've been wearing them I've had them for a long time, but I've just been more, wearing them more often and being more
mhm.
mindful about it. And just a couple of months ago, when it was still like February, we had, it was getting dark at like 5 or 6 o'clock, and I would put them on, and it's like 8:15, 8:30. I'm like, I cannot stay awake anymore. And now that the days are so much longer, I don't put them on till about 8, and it's like almost 10 by the time my body is ready to fall asleep. So it really does mimic the patterns. And, I'm a mom of three. My daughter's 20. My sons are 18 and 15. So moms, I get it. I mean, they want to be on that ridiculous Xbox and playing video games at night. And I've been telling them for months, like I just got a bunch of blue light blocking glasses to have here at the house. I'm like, you're not going on there unless you put those glasses on. And
Mhm.
they used to think I was ridiculous, but some of their friends are actually even getting them now. So I was like,
Yeah.
oh wow, well, hey, see, it's starting to pick up. And my
Mhm.
my youngest son was wearing them the other night, and he came outside to shoot baskets, and he still had them on. I'm like, okay, but don't bring them down. Wear them outside. Like
Yeah,
you
exactly.
don't need to do. And I just said, keep it really simple. If you're outside, you don't need to put any glasses on.
Yeah,
So,
please don't put glasses on, including
yeah,
the ones you meant to
yeah,
wear. Um, my friend, not my friend, one of my clients, she has a rule that when her nephews come over, if they want to play or watch TV or play the Xbox, they have to have their special glasses on.
yeah,
And I think
yeah,
like 6 and 8. So it's like if you want to play Xbox, fine, but you have to have your glasses on.
yes.
Um,
Yeah, we moved my 18-year-old son out of the dorm next week, and I cannot wait because I have no
so
control over
exciting.
how long he's, up and staring at screens and
You should
watching
talk
the
to, sorry to interrupt you. I need to
you're
say this
okay.
really quick. You need to talk to a lady called Kristen Harvey. She is a coach from, where does she live? Somewhere EST. But she's a mom just like you, and she gets so frustrated because she's like, my daughter, she's in this dorm and they feed her all this food, and all the windows are bolted shut for safety, but like I just want them to open it. And so
Yes.
I feel like you two would get along very, very well.
Yes. Yes. And I've told people, I'm like, listening to your story and my daughter's story and all these college kids who just have so many health issues. I'm like, I just want to make a master class or a course or something
Um,
just to go through the basics of why it's happening.
Exactly. I say the future of healthcare is education because, producers don't change trends, consumers do. So
Yes.
until we start asking for safer environments, we're not going to get it. But I'll tell you a worse story. I have a client from the UK, and she's a school teacher, and she suffers with chronic migraines, which is caused by a lot of things, but also the fact that she gets no nitric oxide production. So the oxygen flow to her brain is really diminished because she's inside all day. And so
Yeah.
in the UK at the moment, the sun's not rising until 8 o'clock. And so that's when the kids actually start school.
Yep.
So they go inside,
Yep.
their windows are actually painted black. Um, and they're closed because they don't like the glare on the computers. The kids can't see
Oh,
properly. So they're all
no.
painted black, and they have these big strip fluorescent lights down the middle of the classroom. And so the other two teachers that work in her building as well, that face that side of the sun, they have chronic migraines as well.
Oh,
Um, and so the children, they're inside all day long from sunrise past UVA rise. So they don't get a break or to go
oh,
outside until 11:15.
wow.
And they all have learning difficulties, they can't settle, they're all hyperactive, all these things. And it's like, well, no wonder why. Their body
Yeah.
is so dysregulated, their nervous system is so dysregulated. And then
Yep.
they're just staring at blue light all day long. I
Okay.
can't,
Mhm.
this is why, children's health is so important. And I love what Dr. Jalal Khan is doing over at the Quantum Kid. That practice is just so incredible, really teaching mothers how to optimize their children's health through quantum health. It is
Yeah,
just,
because
it's so
mothers,
needed.
I mean, once they know it, they'll implement it. It's just you
Mhm.
don't know what you don't know. And I substitute taught for 5 years, and I completely get it. But a lot of teachers that when I went into their classroom, they would have the fluorescent lights off, and they would have like dimmer lamps on around the room because they could see the difference in the behavior just by doing that. And those who did have windows exposed, you know, I've never heard of painting the windows black. That's terrible. But they would at least open windows but yeah, you're right. I mean, my kids, they have Chromebooks and they sit on those all day and that's how they do most of their assignments. And a lot of the interior of the building just don't have any light exposure whatsoever. They have no idea what the weather is. And I know I'll drive my son to school and now I make us put down the windows. So at least he
Yeah,
gets
it's like light break every 10 minutes.
like
Put
at
down
least
the window.
put your windows down while we were going. And he's like, I'm so mad I'm going to school today. It's so nice out. I'm like, I am too.
That's so funny.
But we're
Poor thing.
almost done. But
There's a
one more.
company called, oh, sorry, there's a company called Daylight Computer Co.
Okay.
And so they're the world's first blue light free computer. You should also interview Arjun. He's incredible. But he spent the last 5 years building this technology. And so the more you go into the sun, the brighter the screen gets because it's actually reflecting the sunlight. It's not emitting any blue light and it has zero flicker as well, which is a massive problem with screens. But a company like this doesn't work unless we do, unless the community does. And so we really need to spread the message of this company so they can continue to grow and build phones and laptops and things like this as well. But they're trying to get into some schools at the moment. And they're doing incredible things, especially for kids with epilepsy who can't use devices because the flicker influences the onset of the epilepsy. So they're able to use devices again for the first time in their life.
Yeah, I know I'm on his waiting list for when they actually launch and come out. So
I
I'm
have one
really
right
excited
now.
about that. I'm like, I want my phone to be like that. So I feel like that could be a huge movement, and a way to mitigate some of what's going on. But in closing, let's just go over one more concept. I know you have, you're a very in-demand gal. So, but you talked a little bit about how the morning light, the UVA light helps with serotonin production and how that, like, I don't want to downplay this because people think like, okay, if I want to get good night's sleep, I either have to take this supplement or I just have a bedtime routine that starts at like 8:30, 9 o'clock, and they kind of disregard the whole process that's building that. And really, good sleep is starting in with that sunrise and UVA rise because that's where the serotonin is produced, which then later, if I'm not mistaken, if I'm remembering correctly, that's going to be converted to melatonin later, correct? So that we can have sleep onset.
Exactly. We have an aromatic amino acids in our eyes, and one of them is called tryptophan, and it's kind of shaped like a benzene ring, and it's shaped like a benzene ring because it really is like a hula hoop. And so you can picture like if your son's playing basketball, that ring is really like this aromatic amino acid tryptophan. And so when you put the ball through it, you can actually think of that ball as a photon of light actually being trapped in the benzene ring. And so when this process occurs in a certain way, that tryptophan can go on to become serotonin. And then serotonin goes on to become melatonin. Then melatonin gets degraded back down to tryptophan. And so you can actually make the argument that melatonin is just stored morning sunlight, really. That's being later on in the body. And we can talk about biophoton release and all these things, but at the end of the day, it's like if you're suffering with depression, anxiety, and even if you're not, preventative healthcare is the only healthcare really. Like you need to be tied to your natural light environment because it literally controls everything in your body. It controls your mood. It controls your psychology. It controls your metabolism. It controls how you feel when you wake up in the morning. It controls your level of consciousness, truly. We were quiescent microorganisms, and then when we gained access to light, we were able to grow in consciousness, if you believe in evolution. And so it really truly is so important. And don't believe me either. Don't believe some random girl you've heard on this podcast. Go and do your own research, talk to these doctors, read the peer-reviewed articles. I mean, my podcast launches in 2 weeks. It's called Peer Reviewed. And so that literally is my friends and I reviewing these articles that are literally out there that say that blue light causes breast cancer. Like it's literally on the same database as all of these other textbooks. So that's going to be fun.
Yeah.
But do your own
research. Search blue light and whatever disease process, and you're going to find.
And then put DOI after it in the Google search bar because DOI will mean that it'll only bring up like peer-reviewed articles. That's good to know. Exactly. And so, you can be your own university student. We got into this mess because we decided to outsource our healthcare information to a doctor and then their motives and their education can be changed to suit whatever narrative we want to believe in. And so, we need to stop that. Take your health back into your own hands, do your own education, understand how your body works, because nobody else is going to do it for you. You need to have your own best interests in mind, because someone else is not going to. So yeah, I'm excited for what's to come, and I really think that we can change the world.
I am too. I think there's just a huge movement. I mean, we can't keep going like this and survive as a species. So just going back to basics and being a natural human is really what is going to be the most helpful for us. So, well,
Exactly.
I'd love to sit and chat with you for several more hours. We might just need to bring it back a time or two and get into some of these other concepts that we talked a little bit about, but didn't really explain. But tell us where we can find more information, or if somebody wants to work with you, because I believe you do virtual consults as well, correct?
Yeah, so I work with clients one-on-one. My website is kieralewellness.com. I'm probably most active on Instagram, which is also Kiera Wellness. I have a 3-month wait time to book in with me for one-on-one clients at the moment, but I do run a school, which is so affordable. It's super low cost, and I really made that because everything that I just said, I believe that we need to educate ourselves. And so for anyone who wants to nerd out on some of these topics, my school is the place to be. I run like monthly educational sessions and open Q&As, and I think we have maybe 70 or 80 people on there now. So, we all ask each other questions and just nerd out together. It's a pretty fun place to be.
Yeah, nerding out is my jam. I might just have to, I know we have a little bit of a time difference, but I'll have to check into that. Well, thank you so much for coming on. I'm sure people listening learned a lot and probably like, oh my gosh, I crave more, but
If
I'm so
they're still listening, or they're probably like, this woman is
yeah.
crazy.
Yeah. Well, I'm so happy you're doing the work that you are doing. I mean, you have a long time left to spread the word and get all of this information out there and educate others and educate old ladies like me on
Oh, don't be
how to,
silly.
on how to, teach my clients too. And really just the practicality of it is what, we can get into all the nitty-gritty, but really just like knowing how to apply this and getting back to basics is the important part. So, but thank
Awesome.
you
Well,
so
thank
much
you
for
so
your
much for having me on, and thank you for being so open, to learning and doing the work, because I know there's a lot of practitioners out there that they're like, okay, circadian biology, this is the real deal, but they've built businesses around selling CGMs, or they've built businesses around, different services. And so if they were to change, it would mean,
Yes.
probably a detriment to their business for a small time. So it takes someone who's very, their heart's in the right place to really take on new information. And so I'm excited to work with you in the future and get to know you more.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, that's where I'm at right now. It's a rebranding and rethinking. There's a lot going on behind the scenes, but thanks so much for your time. It was an enjoyable hour.
No worries. Bye.
Bye-bye.